Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm delighted to speak this evening with two distinguished graduates of the University of Texas at Austin, Karin Zaner and Dr. David Genecov, both of whom are outstanding public servants to their communities and to the university. Both majored in Plan 2, which is an interdisciplinary honors major. It's the oldest in the nation, and it is centered on the humanities. And the humanities are our topic this evening. When we talk about the humanities, we're talking about disciplines in the arts, languages, literature, history, philosophy, and religion dedicated to the exploration of the human experience. And more specifically, for this evening's purposes, in relation to Karin and David's professional and personal lives. So welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
David, I would like to start with you this evening. Storytelling is at the heart of the humanities, and so I would like you to tell me where you are from and what brought you to UT.
Well, thank you, Janet. I'm excited to be here. And I came to the University of Texas from Dallas. Had the opportunity to go anywhere in the United States I wanted, as long as it was the University of Texas. My father is a graduate of the university. My brother was a graduate of Plan 2. And my sister was at the university when I got here. And coming from a small all-boys private school in Dallas with a very strong liberal arts humanities education, Plan 2 was a great opportunity for me. And once I got here, I knew, although I was a little reluctant in the beginning, I knew it was the right place for me, and the education was outstanding. And after that, I went to medical school. We didn't have a medical school in Austin then, so I went to San Antonio, UT school in San Antonio, and did a general surgery residency, a plastic surgery residency, and then a special fellowship in craniomaxillofacial surgery. So I take care of children and adults with complex facial deformities and post-traumatic injuries.
Great, thank you so much. Karin, tell us your story.
I have a little similarity to David's story. I went to a private all-girls high school in Dallas that was heavy on the humanities, but that's where it ends. I think in rehearsal, David said that he decided he wanted to do the surgery he does now when you were 13. So, and that amazes me. I fell into UT by accident, literally. My senior year, I was involved in a really bad car accident, and so that was right around the time when applications for college were due. And I graduated high school because I had done well enough to do that. I was in the hospital for 2 months starting in March, and was thankful to graduate high school, but had no idea where I was going to go. And I ended up being able to go to UT because some applications were filed for me sort of when I didn't know what I was going to do. And I felt very lucky to go in the fall, but it was hard. I was on crutches, and it was a very difficult time. And then I also fell into Plan 2 by accident. I was not in Plan 2, but that was at the time where they allowed sophomores, as long as you had a little bit, a school, just a small amount of hours, you could transfer in. And so again, I did that by accident. But the comparison between the big classes I was in as a freshman with the small, wonderful classes I was in once I got into Plan 2, I could not believe what I was able to do because of that program. And so I feel very fortunate. Then I graduated Plan 2, and I didn't know what to do, and so I went to law school.
That's great. David, do you have a quintessential humanities moment at UT that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think, you know, what really represented my education at the University of Texas was because of Plan 2 and the opportunities it afforded us to small classes. I was taught by Walt Rostow in one of the classes in the LBJ library, and it was pretty amazing to be taught by someone who was there, teaching you what he did in the place surrounded by the history. Yeah. And I was able to juxtapose that to organic chemistry, where you walk in the class. You know, in my class with Walt Rostow, everybody was very interested in learning. It was all about looking at everything around us and taking in the history of what we were taught in organic chemistry. Everybody was pulling their hair out, worrying about whether or not they were going to get into medical school, and there were 700 people in the class. So I was able to kind of exist in both parts of the university all at the same time, and it really kind of impressed upon me the value of that humanities education as opposed to just a strict, you know, science curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Great. Karin, how about you?
Do you have
moment?
A,
Yeah,
yes,
what
I
is
have
your
a
moment?
I have a moment. Actually, I flash back to my moment while Paul Woodruff was speaking, because my moment is about Paul. It's not just because you're here now, but it was my sophomore year Plan 2 philosophy class. It was jointly taught by Paul Woodruff and Bob Solomon, and it was the most amazing philosophy class that anybody could ever have experienced. It changed my life. It opened my eyes. We dealt with concepts of what it means to be human, which is the core of humanity. And so it is an experience that I am will always be grateful to you for, and to Bob Solomon, and an experience that I've carried with me. It was in the atrium of one of the buildings on campus, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And it's the difference between who I am now and the career that I love and the life that I love. It was a real life-changing moment for me.
That's fantastic. The power of the humanities to transport you to different places and different times. And thinking about those different places and different times, I would love for you to talk about your honors thesis that you wrote.
That is taking us back.
You bet.
Yeah. You know, I'll go first. You know, when I did my honors thesis, it wasn't as structured, I think, as it is now. And I wanted to write about the human condition. That was kind of what we learned about, you know, to be empathetic and try to learn about what people go through and understand their lives. And the working poor was something that I was interested in Austin. In Austin at the time, in about 1985, there was a big influx of migrant workers, and so I went and lived at the Salvation Army. I'd planned to live there for 4 or 5 days and meet the people and learn what it was like and go out to the areas and try and get a job and all that. And I wrote about the human condition and what it was like to be young and poor and you know, need a job. And sleeping in the Salvation Army taught me a lot. I actually slept next to a guy who was a mail carrier whose life was ravaged by alcohol. He was coughing all night. The place was not a wonderful place to stay. I think I made it about 3 days and kind of hoofed it back to campus. But I got a real appreciation of what I didn't want to do. But I also understood that people got into situations really not by any bad deeds of their own, but by certain things that happened in their life. Yeah. And you know, we needed to help them. There needed to be that social security, that net to help the people. And I think that was a very valuable lesson for me going forward into what I do today.
Absolutely.
So
Karin.
if David would have done his thesis when I was around, he would have been in the School of Social Work, which is where I did my thesis. And I did it, the car accident that I was in as a senior in high school was a drunk driving accident, very serious one. And so one of the things I started doing immediately was to go out to high schools in the Austin area and other places in order to just talk to the kids about the fact that you don't think it's going to happen to you, but it can happen. And so part of what we all need to do is take care of each other and make smart decisions, especially when it comes to alcohol and driving. And yes. So my senior thesis was based on a program that I worked on as a student. All 4 years I was there, called the Designated Driver Program. And so we were on 6th Street in a van, taking people home and doing it, you know, weekend in and weekend out. And you know, maybe we didn't take all that many people home, but at the same time raising the awareness and having people think before they actually got into the cars and make decisions before they were in a situation where they couldn't make decisions was really what we were trying to do. It was a very important program for me, and so I turned it, I think because I spent so much time on it, I turned it into my senior thesis, and it was a very meaningful one.
Both of you have spoken about empathy as being really at the core of your experiences with your honors thesis, and also communication, and also trust is also a part of this whole process too, in working with people in these situations. How have you applied the lessons of your education in the humanities and writing an honors thesis to your careers? David, how about you?
Well, I think Karin and I really understand this very well because I think we both deal with it a lot. When I take care of my patients, most of them are children. It's not just the patient, it's their family. There can be all the statistics in the world, but to that family, the incidence of that particular anomaly is 100%. And so we have to be empathetic. We have to communicate well. We also have to earn their trust because they're going to give me their little baby, their 7-pound baby, to go take care of in the operating room. And that's a lot of trust to give someone. The other thing is I take care of my patients really throughout their life because it's an ongoing process. And so I have to be able to communicate. I have to keep their trust after it's been earned, and I have to understand on an ongoing basis what they're going through. And without the humanities, without that education of learning how to communicate, learning how to lead, learning how to understand how other people view things, I don't think I could do the job that I do as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And David's a really good example of a person who really helps others. And that, for me, that's the thing that makes me, that drives me. And so I have so much respect for David. I even Googled him and looked at a few things. And there's Facebook posts that call him a hero. And you see this over and over again, and you see it as recently as 2 days ago. You know it's true. And so he is in a position where he is impacting in a very tangible way the lives of many people. And that's something that I always thought I wanted to do, but my question is how, because I could never do organic chemistry. And so I'm really surprised in my life how things have kind of come together in order, the stars align, in order to get me to a place where I really feel like I am in the career that I best can help. And the big part of that is the humanities training that I've had. I'm a lawyer, and it's been, I guess, 20 years I've been practicing, and I've been able over a period of years to develop a healthcare practice where my focus is helping physicians and physician groups. And so when physicians are dealing with the front lines of healthcare, the changes in healthcare in society today, which are very difficult, and then all the other issues they have to deal with, we as a society have to figure out how to make it worthwhile for them to be physicians. You have the very top students coming out of undergraduate work, and instead of choosing medical school, 8 years at least of study, probably more, and then very difficult conditions, hard work, tough issues, we're asking a lot of those students to go into that career. What drives them is the love of healing people, but at the same time, what we see now is instead of doing that, we have the smartest kids going into law, 3 years of law school, business, finance. Those are all wonderful professions, but we've got to have doctors. There's a huge shortage of physicians now in Texas, across the nation, and it's only getting bigger. So this is a place where I feel like I can support through my representation of physicians and helping them deal with the issues they come across in a human way. In David's in David's website, he says, first and foremost, my patients are people, and I treat them that way so that I can help them. I feel the exact same way about my clients. First and foremost, they're people, and I have to understand them, and then I can deal with their legal problems and hopefully help them get back to taking care of patients.
Absolutely. Great. So thinking then about your lives, family, leisure, fun, how do the humanities impact your experiences at home? David, how about you?
Well, I have 4 kids, and patience, I guess, is one of the key things that you learn in any type of education or profession. You got to have some sort of patience. But I think, I try to instill in all my kids the love of learning, which I received both in my primary education, but mostly through my experiences here at the university. And it's that love of learning that will get them through all sorts of difficult situations. And not just, science or math or engineering type things, but learn about art and history and languages. All my kids speak at least one other language. Enjoy cinema, enjoy just reading a book for fun. And I think that's been the biggest influence, is to understand that for me, and then my ability to pass that down to my kids. And my wife is an exceptional physician in her own right, and she also has a humanities education. So I think between the two of us, the kids got a double dose.
Wonderful. Karin.
And, David is so organized. He's so structured. It all just happens with him. I just luck into things, and so I married somebody who is a UT philosophy major, and I met him in law school, Adam, and he teaches our cultural literacy to our household, which includes my daughter Zoe. So Zoe is getting a full-fledged education in all the arts and humanities. She's 9, and so she's already seen West Side Story. We're in the middle of The Music Man. She's had her Star Trek total education, as well as other things like Land of the Lost and all those important cinematic pieces. But he teaches them to her in a way, and I get to learn alongside, where they're actually looking at the issues, and they're looking at the art, and they're looking at, I think we're right in the middle of the Twilight Zone, learning all those series. Hopefully that won't affect her too much in her 20s. But that's our household, is we really value the arts. We go see a lot of live music. She is playing piano, and she's about to start accordion. So all the things that you need to be in order to be a child of the humanities is what we're trying to do with her. And she's a lovely, sunny child, and we're having a lot of fun. So the humanities is also fun, if we're talking about it. It's a wonderful way to live.
Absolutely. I'm just having fun listening to you describing this. This is great. So thinking about, this is a tough question. Is there a favorite work of art or music, film, any aspect of the humanities, a production that you would like to talk about?
When you think about, art and music, you think about famous productions that you go visit or see somewhere in a museum. I think of one of my patients. I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of artwork in my office, and I took care of and still take care of a young lady from Malaysia who is an art student at Georgetown, and she was about 17 years old when I last saw her, and she came to my office with this tube, and I was talking about it. She has very complex facial issues, and after we were talking, and with her family, her parents actually came in from Malaysia for the visit, and we were talking, and at the end of it, gave her a big hug. I was really proud of her because she, is getting a degree in college here in the States, and she presented me with this tube, and I unwrapped it, and it's an acrylic art painting of flowers and sky and everything. It's beautiful. It's the size of this table, and I framed it and I put it in my office, and that to me is what I think about when I think about beautiful artworks, because it's her, and her inner beauty comes out, and it's made for me, and it's just something very, very special.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Great.
Not
Karin.
one of my clients has painted me a picture. Not one. So I have to go with something else. And as an alumni, my husband and I have been very lucky to visit the Harry Ransom Center lately, especially with Zoe. The exhibits, the Gutenberg Bible, the fact that they have the North by Northwest screenplay up there, which is part of our cultural literacy education, the fact that they've got a Frida in the lobby, that collection is absolutely amazing. And so part of me says that, but that's not about my student days. If we want to really go back to my student days, to the time where I was really, everything was new and my eyes were opened, I have to say it was the opera Turandot that was performed when I first met my husband in law school, and we were weary law students. And I had, I was the kind of girl that I didn't know what an opera was. And my husband suggested that we go. And I was just wowed. The grandeur, the costumes, so it was Turandot, a Puccini. I think David and we talked about opera. I'm a Puccini junkie, and I think he is too inside. But they had the set of a dragon with a pearl in the hand. And between the costumes and, of course, just that beautiful music, the magic, the beauty was right there for me as a student on campus that opened my eyes to so many things in my life. And that's, we've seen it probably 6 times since. And we love the opera. We especially love Puccini in the music, but we also love everything about the arts and humanities.
Oh, that sounds breathtaking.
It was.
It was lovely. So when we think about the humanities, what lessons can we draw for larger issues in society? Thinking about both in your personal lives, of course, your professional lives, but more generally about society and its running, its operation.
I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll go for David. So David heals people. I mean, you have children that you turn them from what they have into something absolutely amazing, and you do that for children day in and day out. You do it for patients in other places. You do it for children who would never have the opportunity to have that. And so to me, that is about as exciting of a contribution you can make in life. And so, a surgeon like David takes care of people and treats them because of their humanity. And we need physicians in order to make sure that that's happening, because healthcare is important. We've got an aging population. We've got the need, the systems, the current system is broken, and we need physicians in order to make sure, we need physicians to keep in touch with our humanities. A good example is the new Dell Medical School, which is going to be a groundbreaking way of training doctors. And so we need physicians to do that. We also need society, people like me, people like the people in this audience, to treat physicians as humans, because what they do is amazing, but we need to make sure that we're treating them and understanding them, so we provide them with the tools and the ability to do what they continue to do.
Yes.
You know, Jen, it's interesting. It used to be when you would train, my specialty, train physicians or whoever, you would want them very structured, very science-oriented and things. And the world is moving into this science, technology, engineering, math kind of concept. And even the primary schools and high schools, they're looking at that. But what I think people would misunderstand is that's an additive process in my view. You need to teach people how to communicate. You need to teach people how to think critically. You need to problem solve. To be empathetic, and then add on the engineering and the science and the technology pieces, so that you have someone trained in the humanities who is also an excellent scientist. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you can't translate that to the rest of society. It becomes very isolated. And when that happens, the communication breaks down and our society breaks down. So I think without a very strong basic education in the humanities, in history and language and all those things that make our culture rich, without that, I think we would be in trouble.
Absolutely. And one of the points that you raised in the STEM analysis is technology. And so I'm wondering, how has technology enhanced your experience with the humanities, David?
Well, for me, we talked a little bit about this. I love to read, and I actually learned to love to read because I went to school here and was exposed to so many wonderful types of literature. But when I sit down and read, I tend to fall asleep. And as an early riser, I like to listen to both novels and fiction and nonfiction, and the change in the audible, portable books, books on tape that are now books on your iPhone. I mean, it's changed everything for me. So it's really allowed me to access both journals and educational materials, and you know, fiction and nonfiction while I'm awake, and not, you know, start to read your journals and stuff and fall asleep, so I can do my stuff when I wake up early. And I think it's been very effective for me.
Yeah,
How about you?
fantastic.
Well, I mean, it means we're always on call.
Yeah,
And so
true.
you know, there's so much information, and you're expected to be available 24/7, especially doctors, but even lawyers. And so on the one hand, I think it's made us more busy, and I don't mean busy in a good way. So I think the challenge is to penetrate that, use the benefits of it, because there's, you know, a fabulous way we can now find articles and resources, you know, by the touch of a button, where, you know, before we were going to libraries and checking out books. But at the same time, I think the challenge is to make sure that you're using that technology in ways that are useful to you, and not cluttering up your mind, and certainly your soul, because there are still important issues to think about that I think remain the same.
Absolutely.
Communication, treating people with respect, treating people, you know, and helping them at the core. And I think that stays the same no matter what technology you have.
Absolutely. And we are just about out of time. And I want to thank both of you so much for being here this evening. It has been my pleasure and my honor. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you for having us.
It's been a great time.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fun.
It's been great.